Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to this another session of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So, today we'll be looking at chapter 6 in this Bhakti Jnana course. So, chapter 6 is entitled Dhyana Yoga. So, summary of chapter 6. At the end of chapter 5, Krishna briefly mentioned the system of Ashtanga Yoga, the strict, regulated, focused regime of an ascetic yogi. In the present day, millions of people worldwide practice elements of this path, primarily the Hatha Yoga and the Pranayam, which offers benefits for physical and emotional well-being. In this chapter, the path of Ashtanga Yoga is explained in its entirety. The themes are as follows: the state of mind, the detailed practice of Ashtanga Yoga, which is impractical in this age. Arjuna questions this practice as it is very difficult, and Krishna guides him. What happens to the spiritualist who can't achieve the end result? Is he lost in both spheres? The yogi performing Bhakti Yoga is the best. We shall go through the different verses now. So, who will read? Riyansh, will you read the English translation? I read the Sanskrit.
Okay, Mataji.
Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Ya Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Nigatni Na Chakriya.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mistake, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty.
Text 2. Yam Sannyasam Iti Prahur Yogam Tam Vidhi Pandava Na Ya Sannyasta Sankalpo Yogi Bhavati Kaschana.
Translation. What is called renunciation? You should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme Person of Bhandar. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification.
Text 3. Arurukshormuneryogam karma karanam uchyate yogarudhasya tasyaiva shrama karanam uchyate.
Translation. For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, working is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means.
Text 4. Yada hi nendriyartheshu na karma swanushajyate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yogarodhastadochyate.
Translation. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when having renounced all material desires. He neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities.
Text 5. Udharet atmanatmanam natmanam avasadhayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmana.
Translation. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well.
Text 6. Bandhur atmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jita anatmanastu shatrudve Vartetatmaiva shatruvat.
Translation: for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy.
Next 7. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita shitoshna sukha dukheshu tatha manapamanayo.
Translation: for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same.
Next 8. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Bhutastho Vijitendriya Yukta Ityutyate Yogi Samaloshrashma Kanchana.
A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-control. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same.
Next 9. Suhaina Mitraryudasina Madhyastadeshya Bandhushu Sadhushvapi cha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate.
Translation: a person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, and neutral mediators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind.
The summary of the verses 1 to 9. The mind is that voice within, essentially a storehouse of memories and experiences that offers options to the individual. An uncontrolled mind will agitate, misguide, and entangle the soul within the world, forcing us to succumb to our lower nature of lust, anger, and greed. On the contrary, the controlled mind, on the other hand, acts as a friend on our spiritual journey, helping us to make progressive and healthy choices which bring us to God. One experiences tranquility, peace, and freedom from the duality of happiness and distress. So, lesson 23. As Krishna describes to Arjuna in the second chapter, we are not the body. So some people may think that we are the mind. However, here Krishna informs us that we are not the mind, as it can be the friend or enemy of the soul. Indeed, we can observe the mind, but because people also does what the mind dictates, the soul does not come in the picture. So very important chapter, very important lesson. So we should be understanding that we are the soul and not the mind or the body, but the mind that should be controlled. Otherwise, it's very difficult to make progress in the spiritual path. So a controlled mind will really give us peace, tranquility, and freedom from this duality of happiness and distress. Any other comments?
Mind is can be pretty distracting, and if we're not careful, we can really fall into some terrible traps that the mind sets. So we have to, of course, be very vigilant, even when we think, well, yes, we've done it, we've controlled ourselves. It's not always the case that it's so easy to control the mind. So we have to be very, very vigilant and careful to control the mind. So, Naniven or Baba Ben, anything you like to share or ask?
Yes, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Krishna.
Yeah, we as mind can be our friend as well, which at times we forget, because the mind itself causes so much issues that we are always concerned that mind is our enemy. But if we consider it as a friend and try to control it with our higher intelligence, then I think we can make good progress in the spiritual life.
Good
The
point.
mind is the one thing has to be controlled. It should not become our master. It should not become our servant.
Yes, good point. Good point.
Hare,
Yes, Bhagavad.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I agree with Mataji because whatever is in our mind, it is very hard to control. As the Mataji said, it can be your friend and it can be your enemy.
Mhm.
So we have to control our mind. Nobody can control our own mind. We have to decide what we want to do.
Mhm.
And what our soul, sometimes mind says something different and the soul says something different. So best thing is to listen your soul. But mind is running everywhere.
Mm.
Mind is running. I do this, I do that, I'll do tomorrow this, I'll do tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I'll do this, I'll do this. It doesn't work out that way. Just if you make your mind up, then that's it. You are going to do it and you do it. That's it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Oh, thank you. Very true. When we go to schools nowadays, and if there's time, we do this exercise. We sit. We ask them to sit and like lotus position and chant Om. And we explain that we chant it 5 times, and you should focus on the mind on the sound. And if the mind goes somewhere else, like what's for lunch or dinner or what's on TV tonight or what's my mommy and daddy doing, then bring the mind back to the sound of the Om. Now, actually, if we find the children, a lot of the children, when I asked them after the exercise, how many stayed on the sound of the Om, many actually would put their hand up, many would not. Of course. And then they would tell me, this is where the mind went. And I always ask them, did you bring it back? Some say yes, some say no, we stayed out there. So it is a really good exercise to ask children to do, because this can show them that actually the mind is different from us. And also the mind can be, controlled or regulated. And when we do that from a young age, then there's a chance that some of these children may actually put into practice a little bit of control. Oh, yeah, this is a nice picture, Karuna. Explain that one.
Yeah, so this is a very nice picture where we stand as a soul, the passenger in the body. The driver is the intelligence, so very important that we get the knowledge from scriptures, from bona fide guru, and we develop that good intelligence, spiritual one. And then we can control the mind with the reins, and then the senses also under control. So desires and everything will be controlled.
Indeed.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu. So, Mataji. So the intelligence is above the mind, isn't it? And soul, is it? Soul is above intelligence. Yeah.
Yes. The soul is the controller of the intelligence, and the intelligence controls the mind,
Okay.
and the mind controls the senses. That's the way it should work. But generally, the senses take over, and the mind, like we can, sometimes the mind can't control the senses because the senses are so strong. Krishna explains in the 2nd chapter. So when the mind is weak, it won't be able to control the senses. When the mind is strong, then it's got a good chance of controlling the senses.
Absolutely true, Prabhu. It's very difficult in this world sometimes, you know.
It's extremely,
Extremely difficult.
yeah.
Yes.
And this is
We
what-
always, when you're chanting, you've gone somewhere else. I've gone to Mauritius. I'm
Yeah.
oh God.
No, it's true, very true. I know what you mean. Mm. And this is what Arjun says to Krishna later in this chapter, which we'll come across, and we'll see Krishna's answer to that. So, okay.
Okay, so we shall continue.
Yes.
Riyansh is still here? No.
Oh, no, you may have lost connection.
Okay. Okay, Surendra Prabhu read the Sanskrit now.
Hare Krishna, Didi, Dandavat, and Dandavat to all the Vaishnavas. Yes, I'll try to read the Sanskrit. Is that okay?
Okay, yes, you read the Sanskrit. And Pooja Mataji, can you read the English one?
Yeah,
Translation?
thank you, Mataji.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Yogi Yunjita Satatam Atmanam Rahasi Stitaha Ekaki Yatachitatma Nirashir Aparigraha.
A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness.
Tucho deshe pratisthapya sthiramasanamatmanaha nati uchritam nati nicham chailak jina kushotaram tatra ekagram mana kritva yata chitendriya kriyaha upavishya sane yunjat yogam atma vishuddhaye.
To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and soft cloth. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi then should sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling the mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point.
Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayannachalam sthiraha sampreksha nashikagram swam dishaschanavalokayan prasantatma vigattabhir brahmachari vrate sthitaha manah samyamya machito yukta ashita matparaha.
One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life.
Yunjanevam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasaha santin nirvana paramam matsamstham adhigachati.
Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist is mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence.
Nati asnatastu yogosti na chaikantam anasantaha na chati swapna silasya jagrato naiva charjuna.
There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi, O Arjun, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough.
Yuktahara viharasya yukta chestasya karmashu Yukta swapna vabuddhasya yogo bhavati dukhaha.
He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system.
Yada viniyatam chitam atmani eva vyabhatisthate nishpriha sarva kamebhyo yukta iti uchate tada.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
Yatha dipo nivatastho nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanaha.
As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self.
Yatro paramatte chitam nirodham yoga sevaya yatra chaivat manam pasyan atmani tushyati sukham atyantikam yattad buddhi grahayam atindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sthithas chalati tadvataha yam labdva cha param labham Manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukhena guru napi vichalyate tam vidya dukha samyoga viyogam yoga samnitam.
In the perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In the joyous state, one is situated in the boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, it thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
Sanischayena yuktavyo yogo nirvina chetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams jakva sarvan aseshataha manasayvendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all the sides by the mind.
Sanai sanairuparame buddhya dhritti grihitaya atma samstham mana kritva na kinchidapi chintayet.
Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else.
Yato yato nischalati manas chanchalam asthiram tathastato niyam yaitat atmani eva vasham nayet.
From whenever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
Prashanta manasam hiyenam yoginam sukhamutamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham.
The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds.
Yunyanevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasaha sukhena brahma samsprasham atyantam sukham ashnute.
Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord.
Sarva bhutastham atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha.
A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere.
Yomam pasyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pasyati tasyaham na pranasyami sacha me na pranasyati.
For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
Sarva bhuta sthitam yomam bhajati ekatvam astitaha sarvatha vartamanompi sa yogi mai vartate.
Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service to the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances.
Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pasyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukham sa yogi paramo mataha.
He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Thank you, Prabhu. The summary of the verses 10 to 32. One way to control the mind is through the process of Ashtanga Yoga, which includes Dhyana Yoga, the practice of meditation. Krishna explains, living in seclusion, practicing celibacy, under strict regulations of eating and sleeping, the yogi would be sitting in a perfectly erect position, focusing his consciousness on the Supreme Lord, and meditate in this way for many years, maintaining silence. Arjuna wanted to stop fighting and go to the forest, so Krishna blinds Arjuna with the science of Dhyana Yoga. So lesson 24, the science described by Krishna is difficult to practice in its entirety in this age of Kali. And that is what Krishna wanted Arjuna to understand. He wanted to show Arjuna that he cannot become a sannyasi in the forest. His nature won't allow him. However, text 16 is very interesting. Not eat too much, too little, or sleep too much, or too little. So really this system, Ashtanga Yoga, is not appropriate for us in this age of Kali. Becoming a sannyasi in the forest, even forest we don't have so many, at least in Mauritius we don't have much now. So it's very difficult to become a sannyasi and practicing the Ashtanga Yoga, maintaining silence, not eating too much or sleep too much, practicing meditating for many years. Nowadays, we don't even know how many years we are going to live. So it's a very long process and a very difficult one. So impossible for us to practice nowadays. So whatever people are doing now, it's a little bit of pranayam or whatever yoga they are doing. So it's not really what Krishna is explaining. Ashtanga Yoga is far beyond what we can do nowadays. Yeah. Any comments?
Yesterday we had an interesting session in the temple. The couple of sadhikas came from Patanjali and gave us a yoga demonstration. And they were talking about the different yam, niyam, and etc. And interesting how what Krishna is explaining is hard to do, but some of what was explained makes sense to improve the health, have a better balanced life, and even help the mind to be controlled. So definitely something which we can look at, because we want to try to keep a good health. We're not so advanced that if our health goes down, then we'll just carry on serving. That is Prabhupada, that is Guru Maharaj, they can do that, but we're not at that level. So we have to try to keep our health in good condition. And these pranayams and some sort of yoga definitely would help us. And I mean, if you get the basics right, not eat too much, not sleep too much, not eat too little, not sleep too little, that's a good start. But those pranayams can actually help us even control these aspects of our life. Ultimately, of course, we take shelter of Krishna. We don't take shelter of pranayam, but just to assist us to improve our condition, it's a good thing to do. In my opinion, anyway.
Yes, I agree, Prabhuji, because yoga in its own, in a limited way, does help in control the mind, which is what we want here.
Mm.
Control of the mind. So in a limit, it should not be discarded completely. But what Gita is telling us, it's not possible to do the complete Ashtanga yoga. It's been depicted here.
Yeah, that's challenging, no doubt. Yeah. Yes, absolutely, Naniman. Absolutely. I think, okay. Oh, yeah. Yes, this is good. This is exactly what they were explaining yesterday, a little bit anyway, what they were explaining.
So yes, Prabhuji, as you're saying, it's very good to stay in good health. So yeah, some postures that we learned from this Patanjali yoga system. So it's really beneficial for the body. And of course, we have to control the senses. So it's also good to control through the pranayama, etc. So yes, so these are the different hatha yoga, samyam yoga. So the yam, niyam, asanas, pranayam, pratyahar, dharan, dhyan, and samadhi. So dhyan, yes, a little bit of meditation is very good concentration, and then the different the 5 restraint, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. So at least we are trying to control the senses. Shocha, purity, santosh, contentment, tapas, austerity, swadhyay, study, ishwar, pranidhan, surrender. So here for all these Kriya Yoga, we are trying to get closer and closer to the Lord and progress in the spiritual life. So it's good. Certain part of it is good, but have to practice it, and it's really good.
True. Prabhavin, anything you'd like to ask, Prabhavin?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes. Hare Krishna. You know, all this samadhi, dhyan, dharana, prayer, is it parayan?
Yeah.
And then is
Dharana, dhyan.
And asana. So why is not 2 pictures given for this niyama and yama? There's no 2 pictures down there.
Now
there are the pictures for the other one. Spiritual, then there is this one, meditation, concentration.
No, it's just a question of space. Question of space, that's all.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And those are just the 5 restraint.
Yes.
And what it is?
5 positive things.
Non-hungry, not hurting. I can't even read.
Oh, this one. Ahimsa.
Non-hurting.
Yeah, go on, Karuna.
non-hurting, so ahimsa. So you shouldn't be
And then
killing. Yeah, no killing, no lying, no
Yeah.
stealing.
yeah,
Have to control the senses, sense control, and non-possessiveness, so non-attachment to various material things. So this is
okay.
not- So
Mm.
maybe a little bit difficult to have a picture for all of these.
All right, I understand. Yeah,
This
I
is
understand.
purity, contentment, austerity,
Yeah.
study, and surrender. So this is what we should observe, what we should try to put into practice, so that we can become pure.
Mm.
We are content. We are equiposed in whatever happening. Austerity. So all this is what we should be doing. So yeah.
There's just a phone coming. I'm answering. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So, Surinda, anything you'd like to share?
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Haribol. Yes, this Astanga Yoga, even Arjuna expressed with Lord Shri Krishna that it's a bit difficult, but nevertheless, some part of it
Mm.
should consider, as this will help us in controlling the mind. For example, if you have agitated mind, by some pranayama, we can, even Lord Kapila Dev Muni in Srimad Bhagavatam, he expressed that with some pranayam, we can control the mind and bring it, make it peaceful, so that we can meditate on Lord Shri Krishna. Otherwise, if the mind is agitated with stress, anxiety, depression, and all that, then it's difficult to meditate and remember the Lord and His instructions and the pastimes, because the mind has become sort of sick. In UK, there are two health problems which is very prominent. It is psychiatric illness and tuberculosis. So we have to, be a bit introspective and examine our mind, how it is.
Mm.
Because of this work-life style, if it is not proper, then the stress because of work, because of financial crisis nowadays, and so many factors which can disturb our mind. And also bhukti mukti pisachini. We have been slave of bhukti, the path of enjoyment, and mukti, the path of mayavad concept. We have been sort of haunted, just like someone is haunted by a ghost or witch. Means basically, in modern terminology, obsession. We are obsessed with material enjoyment and the path of mukti, liberation. However, our Gurudev and Nityananda Prabhu and Gauranga Mahaprabhu has directed us to the path of bhakti yoga, devotional service. So our prayer goes like that to Nityananda Prabhu. Ara kabe nitai chande karuna hoibe samsara vashanna mora kabe tu chahabe. So we are praying to Nityananda Prabhu because by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, our thirst for material enjoyment can stop only by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. That's why we should worship and beg for the grace of Nityananda Prabhu to be able to free from this desire for material enjoyment and entanglement. And what is the instruction of Nityananda Prabhu? Nityananda Prabhu is saying, Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Ye Jan Bhaje Gaurangera Hoyamara Pranare. This is direct instruction of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So we should take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu and we should worship Gauranga Mahaprabhu and always discuss the pastimes of Gaura Lila, Nityananda Prabhu Lila, and Krishna Katha, and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Pramanandi. Hare Hare Bol Prabhu. Thank you very much. Nitai Gauranga.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So, if there's nothing else, we can stop. What do you think, Karuna?
Yes, Prabhu. Can stop here.
Great.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare